Welcome to Corrective Consciousness episode 10. I am your host, VyseTheBold, and this is...
I'm Lotus Prince.
I'm Pyrojackfrost.
And we have a great show here for you today. It has less people. And...
Fewer people.
Yes, actually fewer.
Guys, sorry.
Alright, restart the podcast. This is horrible.
There's red ink all over the transcript.
And then my spaghetti fell everywhere.
It spilled out of my fanny pack.
It spilled all over my shorts. They were no longer comfy and easy to wear.
I love that. Oh, that was good. But yeah, we have a really great show for you guys today, and we also have a number of questions. How many do we have in the queue there, Lotus?
Zero. Zero's a number. No, in the queue, we actually have 8.
Wow.
So, I mean, some were left over from last time, but yeah, we have quite the banked amount here. Yeah,
and keep in mind, guys, don't get insulted. We're going to answer them all, and unless it's just something like asinine. But
we'll be the judges of that, and we'll point out when it is.
I'll give her a face of 3. But
Question number 3 is offered by this person, but I won't answer it because it's asinine. Moving on. Question number 4.
No, if it's something like...
why do you guys suck so much?
How tall is Lotus?
Yeah. I don't even know how tall I am. Like, I can approximate it.
On a good day, I'm...
If I stand on my tippy toes... Yeah. It's like little kids answering age. Like, I'm 6 going on 7. I know it comes after 6, you idiot.
Yeah. I'm 6 3/4.
Yeah, whatever, dude. Like, when they're in court and
5/8. 5/8.
Yeah, when you're under arrest for underage drinking, you don't say I'm 20 3/4. Get out of here, like.
Actually.
Yeah.
And then you twist your toe and act bashful.
Yeah, and you like sway back and forth with your hands behind
23 and a half years old.
I didn't know it was a Wego.
I'm sorry.
I won't do it again. I still love, like, I haven't watched it in years because it, like, went to hell, and then I think it came back a little bit, but now I'm just not interested. But I love that one Family Guy joke where Peter was at like some party where a bunch of teenagers were drinking, and some cop comes up to him and he's like, "Wait a minute, aren't you a little old to be underage drinking?" It's like, what?
Why would a cop say that?
It's like the weirdest question.
Nice. Well, so we will get to them in time, but keep sending them in. We absolutely love them, and I'm really enjoying that. That's actually my favorite part of this podcast, is actually interacting with you guys. So
yeah, it's really entertaining because they're subjects that we might not necessarily have thought of, and in fact many times have not thought of ourselves.
Yeah, they're really good jumping off points to interesting conversation, and really that's what we wanted to begin with here. So we'll continue with our current format, but hell, maybe there might be a way that we can even incorporate this even better into our structure. I'm gonna have to think about it, but we're getting there. I absolutely love this. Keep subscribing to us. Keep subscribing to us on iTunes, and we need some reviews on iTunes, guys. So if you could throw some up there, we'd greatly appreciate it. And so, having said that, I want to go into our major segment here, what we've been playing this week. So, as Lotus and Pyro know, that I've actually been under the gun here for the last week or so in doing a lot of studying for a work-related licensing exam, which I just passed today, by the way.
Yeah, congratulations.
Thank you. It was like
Could we talk about the games,
rejoiced.
please?
The peasants rejoiced.
Yeah.
And then we ate Robin's peasants. But anyway, so I passed it this morning after a month of studying, so it was fantastic. So I can get on to bigger and more important things like wasting my time playing digital board games. But,
Yes.
No. So I did have some time in between each of my study sessions here, and was able to play some quick stuff. I didn't get any like big long gaming sessions in, like Deus Ex Human Mankind Divided. I really want to get back into, of course, but I just haven't had the time to devote to it. So I have been playing some short stuff, and it's mostly been stuff that I've been messing around in the ROM hacking scene. For instance, I told you about this Lotus over the phone a little while ago, but I've been playing BS Legend of Zelda.
Oh,
yes.
yes.
Legend of Zelda?
Yeah, so it's not one of those stupid hacks that you remember from like way back in the day when we were in middle school, where they would like replace things with like stupid things like
You know, I mean, like the same hack that
Stupid
everybody
sprites.
does the first time they ever hack. You know, like 1,000 enemies in one room, like everybody's first Mario Maker level or something.
No, it actually isn't like that. It stands for Broadcast Satellite.
Yeah, it's just an unfortunate coincidence.
Yeah. It was a game that was only released on a satellite service that Nintendo cooperated with back in the SNES days, and you had a special cartridge that you would use. It's kind of like if you knew anybody who had Sega Channel growing up, where you could download games off of this service and play them and participate in live events and things like that. So it was pretty neat, but it had an exclusive Zelda game that isn't a canon Zelda game or anything like that, but it's still really neat nonetheless. Some really industrious fans of the game actually restored it to a state that's very similar to the way you originally played it. In the original way you played it, they would have voice actors read off dialogue and also give you instructions over the course of the level that you were playing. So you would have live audio over a cartridge game from back in the day. And so some fans actually voice acted this and got it running off of a special chip that somebody came up with for the Super Nintendo that allows you to do video and MPEG video and at Redbook audio, which is really neat. So I can use an SD to SNES and play this in full English. And it's basically... try to imagine this. It's kind of like if you were to take graphics that are similar to Link to the Past, but use them to remake a version of the original Zelda. If you can imagine that.
Well, I mean, I guess it's kind of like what that fan-made Metroid remake did to Metroid 2. It's like, imagine Metroid Fusion or Zero or whatever as Metroid 2, like that kind of thing.
Yeah, it is kind of like that. It's not exactly the same as Zelda 1. It looks like Zelda 1, but the layouts are all completely different. So it's kind of like if you took Zelda 1 and gave it more content and upped the graphics.
Well, actually, in that case, I guess it's just straight up like Mario Maker, where you could choose which Mario aesthetic you want.
Yeah, kind of like that. In that somebody made something new using an old style of Zelda, even for the time. So it's pretty neat. Each mission that you get is like an hour long. You have to go collect. For instance, the first one you have to collect 2 Triforce pieces. And you have to find out where the dungeons are, just like in regular Zelda 1. And of course, they don't correlate with any of the actual locations in Zelda 1 because the maps are all reworked. But it was really fun. Like, throughout the course of the game, it's kind of like... did you guys ever remember playing those board games that had, like, videotapes accompany them?
Yeah, I had one of them.
We had the Gargoyles one, I think, growing up, Pyro.
I don't remember which one. I know I had a Star Wars Trivial Pursuit one, I think it was.
I had a Star Wars one, but I don't think it was Trivial Pursuit. I think it was more of like a traditional board game.
Yeah, I remember playing a regular Star Wars one for sure.
Like you had to like get some like hacking code and then go in and blow up the fortress or whatever, like at the center of it. And there was one player who was like the anti-other players, and like every once in a while the game would interrupt you and they would like say stop, like I have a task for you to do, or they would say like roll the dice, and or like if you have a card that corresponds to the symbol on this screen, then something happens.
Yeah, so like what would happen in this game is like after like 10 minutes or so, the guy who sent you on the mission that gave you the quest at the beginning of the mission will actually help you out and do a spell and like kill everybody on screen, let's say, or will power up your sword so you can continuously shoot your sword like when you have full hearts. So it was really neat, and I really liked it, and I want to play more of it. I definitely suggest it to anybody who has access to it, or you can also use play this in an emulator. You can use it Hegon, I believe it's what it's called, or BSNES, to play this type of game, and it's a lot of fun. It's a really neat experience, especially playing a Zelda game that I didn't know existed. So we also I also got to talk to you about Streets of Rage 3 project, which is really neat. So somebody's been this guy named G-Source has been working on this really awesome hack for Streets of Rage 3, and has been submitting it to Steamworks, so that you could play it on the Sega Genesis collection on there. And it has the original Japanese story, but in English.
Yeah, that's definitely appreciated.
The original Japanese difficulty, which is way
That's
better.
even more appreciated.
And adds a whole bunch of characters to the game, like Shiva and Ash are unlocked from the very beginning.
Oh, nice.
And also Rue or Victi. And also he added Max from Streets of Rage 2.
Yeah.
And Adam. He's in the process of adding Adam from Streets of Rage 1.
Yeah, we mentioned this last time, but I still can't believe they just dropped Adam off the face of the earth. He was cool.
Yeah, so I actually was able to dig out the files and play that on real hardware too.
Nice.
Which is awesome. I also participated in another podcast. I was cheating on you guys.
Great.
Great.
Yeah. Pyro, you and me next time, and that's it.
I moonlight on Hardcore Gaming 101's 47K best games of all time, 47,000 best games of all time, and we ranked some doozies this time around. But the big one was Super Mario 64 that we did. It ended up being the best game we've ranked so far. So I know Pyro really loves that game in particular.
For me, I love watching that game being played, because like it feels weird when I try to play it. Even back then, I was like, I was okay at it and I enjoyed it, but I didn't have the I guess I got my wow factor when I saw it at my friend's house, because I didn't get the chance to play it myself until a while later. So at that point, I was like, well, I've seen a lot of this stuff before, so I was just kind of going through the game. But like, I will say, when you first see it being played, especially when you haven't seen like a real 3D game before, it is crazy.
Oh, it was mostly based on cultural impact, because very much so, except for maybe first-person shooters, it's revolutionized the way any third-person 3D game has played.
The ability to control the camera, even though the C button camera was kind of wonky, the fact that you could do anything with it was very welcome.
And it basically came up with the structure of collecting things in a 3D space. Like even games like Assassin's Creed still do that today, and that all came from Super Mario 64.
It was really cool how there was the hub world with all the levels, but even the levels themselves were kind of made into mini levels, because you only had to do a part of them to get a particular star. It was very creatively done. I would say the most comprehensive you would be in a level was the 100 coin star, but what was cool about the game was that you only needed 70 out of the 120 stars, so you didn't need to drive yourself insane getting the super challenging ones if that wasn't really your thing.
And it's interesting because you didn't always have to, like, when you go into the stage, you can pick a star that you want to collect, and it will give you a hint on how to get there, but you don't have to collect that.
Yeah, that's also really cool. Yeah, you're not bound by it.
Like the 100 coin star, let's say, I'd be on coin maybe 90, and I'd see a star and have a brain fart and pick up that star.
Yeah,
like,
lose all your progress.
For me, that wasn't... For me, that wasn't so
the red
much...
coin star, that's what it was. It wasn't 90, it was like the 5 red coins.
Yeah, no, that's what gets tricky, is if you're getting the red coin star and the 100 coin star at the same time, which you usually would do, because the red coins were worth like 3 or 5, or I think 3.
5.
They were 5.
Oh, wait, no,
the
there
blue
were
ones
3.
are 5. The blue ones
Yeah.
are 5. So, like, you would be getting... So, if the last coin you got coincided with... no, the red coin star spawns at a certain location. It just gets a little scary if the 100 coin star spawns near another star. Like, I remember, I remember one was kind of scary. In the very first world, you know that one you get when you put on the wing cap and you fly through all of the rings, like, way high up?
Mm-hmm.
Like, well,
Yeah.
some of the coins, like, there are rings made of coins. And if you get the 100th coin on, like, it's like a top coin of, like, the highest ring, it might be really hard to get the star because it spawns over the last coin you got. Like, it's unlikely that that'll be a problem you have, but
Yeah, some
could
stars
spawn
are
it
really
weird.
hard to get in that game.
yeah.
Yeah, for sure.
I just got I borrowed my brother's friend's copy, so I got my 70 and I called it a day.
My personal opinion is that while I think it's a great game and that it is a hugely impactful game culturally, I don't think it's as fun in a modern context. I think people that played it when it came out really love it still. But I think it's hard to play in a modern context. But
Yeah, I
could see
never,
that.
I never got the nostalgic attachment to it. So like, I get it, but you know, I could go the rest of my life without playing it again. Like, I don't need to keep coming back to it like I do some other games.
to me, it's not as addictive as Super Mario 3 or World.
That said, I do, like, whenever Awesome Games Done Quick or Summer Games Done Quick comes up, I will watch the speed run of Mario 64 every time. Like, I love watching that game play well.
That's so fun to watch.
Yeah, and especially Mario Sunshine, because the platforming in that game is so freaking technical. Like, if you've ever seen Mario Sunshine played well, especially on runs where they just never use the hover nozzle, it is unreal.
Nice. And moving on from that, like, I needed some quick breaks in between in between studying, so I played some quick matches with a friend of Divekick,
Oh, nice.
Nidhogg, and KOF 98, King of Fighters 98.
98, wow.
Yeah, that's a really good one. It's on Steam. 98 actually is kind of a misnomer. It's like Ultimate 98, so like it's way better than regular 98. It has like more characters.
Just like the year. Ultimate 98 was better than...
Yeah. I can't wait till next year when it's Ultimate 2016.
Yeah. It's like the last one.
That's true. Right now it's Penultimate 2016.
And they're all great. A side thought, Divekick actually has the Nidhogg Fencer in it now.
Oh,
wait, really?
That's awesome.
Yeah, which is
That's
pretty
really
cool.
By the
you
way,
can choose him,
by
and
the
he
way-
can throw his sword, which is pretty.
Oh, that's
broken.
great. No, one thing that always made me laugh about Divekick was, you know how they always say different things when the round's about to start?
Yeah.
Sometimes it's the basic, like, round 1, Divekick. My favorite is when they open with sudden death, because, like, every match, for
every
those of you who
match
don't
is
know,
sudden
every
death.
match is one-hit KO. So, like,
Yeah.
sometimes they'll be like, sudden death, and it's like, they're all sudden death.
It's a really great major deconstruction of fighting games that ends up being as serious as a fighting game. It's really great.
Well, I also love how referential it is with its characters.
Oh, jeez, I have no idea about some of those jokes.
Ask
I have
Mr. Ryu
no
45.
idea.
He could explain like almost every character in the game. The only one I remember, the only two I remember that I can tell you about are that blonde guy with the whip, the Boz. He's a knockoff of a rejected Street Fighter 2 character. So that's why they have him all 90s retro and trying to be cool, but not really. Like, he has that Haomaru finisher when, like, or, like, the victory pose where, you know how Haomaru from Samurai Showdown, he, like, throws his katana in the air and catches it in his sheath just standing there like freaking Trunks from Dragon Ball Z. But, like, sometimes he'll toss the whip and he just won't catch it. It just lands by his side. He just looks at it. It's so funny. And the other character, like, the final boss, is, I forgot what he was called. It might just be Killian, but he's named after Seth Killian, like legendary...
Oh, S-Kill.
S-Kill? Okay. That's actually really clever because it's like skill, but it's also named after Seth Killian, who was like a legendary...
It was also named after, or they named a Street Fighter 4.
Well, that's where I'm going. Like Seth Killian was a legendary Street Fighter player, and now he's well, actually I didn't see him last year, but at least in previous years he's been an announcer for Street Fighter tournaments at EVO.
He was also an employee of Capcom for a long time. He was a community manager.
Yeah, but what really made me laugh, though, is that he has like a moveset kind of like Seth from Street Fighter 4 in Divekick. And also, he does that thing where his hands are crossed over each other. It looks like Yoshikage Kira or something. That's a reference
Nice.
But like the hands crossing over thing is actually a reference to his play style, because I think he's a lefty, but he doesn't have like a left-handed arcade stick. He actually would play in tournaments like and cross his hands over and use his left hands to manipulate the buttons and the right hand
And
to
just
manipulate the
wreck
stick.
people.
He would
Wow.
yeah, like, and he would actually play like that. It was like a really funky style. It was kind of interesting. So like that whole character in Divekick is like
What?
a nod to Seth Killian, which I think is kind of funny.
That I just love having like real gaming celebrities in video games. Like the
It's
first
great.
The first one that I know of that is like Master Higgins or Takehashi Mejin in the Adventure Island games. He was like a guy who worked for Hudson that could who could shoot faster than pretty much anybody.
Nice.
For Star Soldier. So like I just love that they made a video game after a guy in their office. And,
That's
like it was
fantastic.
popular enough to have sequels and stuff.
Well, actually, speaking of which, there's two more things. One more is from Divekick. I don't remember the character's name, but he was apparently designed after like a really like salty, like obnoxious sore winner and sore loser player in tournaments. So whenever he loses, he like blames the controller or like just gets all pissy, and whenever he wins, his head increases in size and it stays into the next round. And speaking of,
it's also a disadvantage in that game to have a huge head.
giant head. And speaking of which, another character in a game that was modeled after like a real person. Apparently, there was a shout out to one of the people in the U.S. branch of Capcom in Street Fighter V story mode. There's one part where like some cops try to stop like some of the Street Fighters with like a nightstick, and it's like, yeah, okay, buddy. Like, so you have like, it's really funny because it goes like, all right, you're actually fighting, and you're like, I'm fighting a guy who's not in the Street Fighter roster. Okay, so it's Chun-Li versus like Peter the cop. He's just like this middle-aged dude, and apparently that was after some Capcom employee, but I just find that really funny. It's like the easiest fight you've ever had. It's just like some guy who's not prepared for this. You know, these guys can shoot freaking fireballs, and it's like Peter.
I always like it when games do stuff like that, like in jokes.
Yeah,
It's a lot better than like I think pop culture references. Even though you get the pop culture references, but not the in jokes. The in jokes are just cool that they have that sense of humor and don't mind putting out there.
it is pretty entertaining.
Yeah, my favorite character is Dr. Scholes.
Oh, that's right. Yeah, named after like the foot pads, which is appropriate because it's Divekick. Oh, actually, one thing that Mr. Ryu 45 had to explain to me is if you start like winning a bunch of rounds in a row, but then all of a sudden you start losing a bunch of rounds, like the game labels you like fraud.
Yeah, there's a fraud alert.
Yeah, which is a thing that happens in tournaments when like a really, really famous player just starts getting his ass kicked, like he's having an off day. People will be like, fraud. Like, it's like really funny.
There was a recent tournament, I think it was Street Fighter V, where like I think it was one of the last games in the tournament, and like the guy like beat the other guy in the first round and started like cheering to the crowd, and then like the other guy just kicked his ass while he wasn't at
That's unfortunate.
It's so good. Like he was boasting, and like the other guy's just like, oh man, I'm gonna get you. Like just stay right over there while you're cheering.
That's
really funny
for that when you think about it. I mean, come
Yeah.
on. Wait till the
Like, you're
game's
being
over.
an
Don't be a
idiot.
poor winner. Yeah.
Yeah, that's
Well,
the whole thing.
not only that, but you're also being stupid. I mean, like, you should know that there's another match. But
I guess one last thing is regarding
sure.
regarding the boss, that kind of like loser wannabe, like if only I could have been in a real fighting game character. One of his victory quotes pleases me because it's a bad pun and it's also just lame as a whole, and it has nothing to do with the match at all. Like when you win, he just says stuff that has nothing to do with anything, and he said like, I bought an apartment like on a cliff so I can always live on the edge. And it's just like,
yeah. He's like my favorite character in the game. Even though I don't get the references, I enjoy
It's
playing
fun.
as him.
Yeah, I mean,
West Philadelphia, born and raised.
Yeah, I mean, he just looks like, if you look up old Street Fighter 2, like, character design art, you'll find a guy that looks kind of like him, and it's like, oh, that's what that is?
Yeah. The only other stuff that I sort of played, I downloaded the new Phoenix Wright game because I freaking love those games. I've played them all except for the second Miles Edgeworth game, which got fan translated, but I haven't gotten a chance to play it. But I've beaten them all, and I love them, and apparently this one's just as good as any of the other ones, so
Good.
I'm really excited. I haven't had a chance to play it yet, so I have no judgment. But
I have a lot of those games to catch up on.
I have all of them to catch up on. I actually own a bunch.
You better get on that.
Yeah, I know. I actually own a bunch, but I don't have a DS or a 3DS.
The best ones tend to be like I like 3 and 4 the best. Like I love Apollo Justice. Apollo Justice is freaking great.
Yeah, I haven't played that one
game
yet.
And the one after that on the 3DS is really good as well.
Which one was after that?
Dual Destinies?
Yeah, that's the one with Apollo
okay.
and Phoenix Wright. And
I think I played 1, 2, 3, and then the Miles Edgeworth game.
Okay, yeah, the Miles Edgeworth game wasn't as good.
I liked it.
It was good, but it wasn't. It wasn't.
It was different. It was definitely not the same.
But I do want to go back and play the second Miles Edgeworth one now. I do want to play that. But Dual Destinies was awesome. It had some really great like characters in it. Like and some of them were super super goofy. Like one of the first ones that you encounter is this like guy who's like a techie kind of guy, and he's like typing on this like keyboard that's on his arm. And he's just,
they have a guy like that in Kill la Kill.
Yeah, he might be a parody or something, but
yeah, the guy's keyboard's all over him, so you just see him typing furiously all over his body, and you're like, "What are you typing?" Like, it's pretty funny.
yeah. Well, this guy is doing that, and like when he gets like flustered and mad that you're like picking him apart, he has like the best animations. I just absolutely loved him. There's also an amazing DLC mission that you should definitely download for that one if you get a chance, Pyro.
Okay.
For the 5th game, Dual Destinies, because it involves defending an orca.
Yes.
What?
Yeah. The orca is accused of murder.
So you have to free Willy?
Basically.
Yeah. Sweet.
But it's pirate themed. The entire
oh, that's rockin'.
The entire trial is pirate themed, and it's like it's basically takes place in a SeaWorld kind of place.
Nice.
But it's a really fun mission. I really liked it. I got my money's worth. But
that actually kind of reminds me of a Sherlock Holmes story where they were trying to figure out who could have killed this one person, and it turns out like some guy like pissed off a horse in the stable or whatever, and the horse just like kicked his head in, but like nobody knew it, so everyone thought there was like murder afoot, and Holmes and so like Sherlock Holmes that
horse's foot
wasn't even intentional, murder a hoof, and so Sherlock Holmes was like I could tell you exactly where the murderer is, like right behind you, and the guy's like and there's just his horse is standing there. It's like, oh well.
And I paid $3 for this story.
Yeah, that's right. Damn you, the Strand! You get a better one next time.
But I also played a little bit of Metroid Prime Federation Force, and I actually really like it so far. I played the Blast Ball portion of it, which is
pronounced
a side game
Blitzball.
All right, Waka. But so there's a side game that you could play in it, which is basically like almost like Rocket League in a way. Like you shoot a ball and you try to get it to go into another team's goal.
Okay.
It's 3-on-3, and it's a lot of fun. And you can unlock some stuff for the main game by playing that.
That's cool.
So I played a little bit of that. I tried to get past the challenge mode in that, which is pretty difficult, but it unlocks one of the best upgrades in the main game.
Jeez, are you sure this isn't Blitzball?
Yeah. It's really difficult. You have to win 6 matches in a row against progressively harder enemies, and you could play it multiplayer, which would probably be better, but I've been playing it with CPU teammates, which, you know, they don't cooperate.
Quality may vary, yeah.
Yeah, exactly. So who knows if I could ever do that, like, solo. So I might need some online help to do that.
But, yeah, let me know.
Hey, if you want to play, if you want to get Metroid Prime Federation Force, I'd gladly play it with you. It would be a really fun game to play, multiplayer. It's basically like Monster Hunter, but with Metroid. It's not, wow. It's not like that bad. Like, it's not like you're collecting like obscure stuff constantly, and it's a first-person shooter version of it. So it's like it's more like I would say that it's more like not Phantom Pain,
Peace Walker?
It's more like Peace Walker. It's more like Peace Walker, of course, but as even more actiony game than that. So saying it's like Monster Hunter. It brings all those connotations of obscurity and bullshit, even though I like the Monster Hunter games, but it's a lot easier to play than a Monster Hunter game. Let's just put it that way. So yeah, that's pretty much all I played, but I only played like 5 minutes of each of these, so you know how I roll, guys.
Yep.
So.
Yep.
But what did you play, Lotus?
I've only really been playing one game lately. Although I did record it, believe it or not, I actually went ahead and played the HD remaster of the Resident Evil remake for, I played it on the PS4, and I haven't played Resident Evil the remake since the GameCube release back when it came out. And I did play the hell out of that game, but back then, you know? So a lot of this stuff was new to me all over again, so because I've played Resident Evil 1 so recently, it was fascinating to see how much of the aesthetic of certain rooms had changed, or where there were new areas, completely new areas. The addition of the Crimson Head zombies, the couple of new bosses. It was really, really exciting. And I actually recorded a full playthrough of it, although that's not going to be my next LP by a long shot. I would like to do the Resident Evil games in the order that they came out, and Remake comes out considerably after Resident Evil 3, which is the last one that I last played. So it'll be a while before Remake goes up, but I really had the itch. I definitely had to play it, and I did, and I'm still working on unlocking my weapons. It's pretty hard to do that, actually. Like, if you use a guide in Resident Evil 1, then it's not a very tall order to beat the game in under 3 hours, if you know what you're doing. But with Remake, it really is pretty rough. Fortunately, they give you a pistol with infinite ammo if you beat it in under 5 hours, so I did that. So my next goal is to do the 3 hour mark and get that coveted infinite rocket launcher. But it's just super cool to see that there are all sorts of different full-on CG scenes instead of unskippable in-game dialogue that you sit through every time. You could skip all that this time, which is great, but it's cool to see different things crop up when you do different things with different characters. And I also like how, like, Remake was the first Resident Evil game I'd ever played, so I didn't realize how full of fan service Capcom is, like, at all times.
Yeah,
so,
they are.
They actually have a bunch of
lots of references to Mega Man and Resident Evil and stuff like that.
Well, even the remake had a bunch of callbacks to the original game. I mean, obviously, it's a remake of the original game, so they're going to have a lot of the same dialogue, but you could tell where they tweaked things. They gave a nod to the stupid Jill sandwich line, without actually giving the Jill sandwich line. One thing that cracked me up, though, is when in Resident Evil 1, when you first enter the dining room and you see that blood, Barry approaches it and he goes, "What? What is this?" And it's like this really funky delivery. But in Remake, when you first enter the mansion, like it's a completely different voice actor for Barry, but you could tell he was doing that voice on purpose. So he was asking, like, what is this place? And he was like, what is this place? I was like, yes. And, like, when you unlock the infinite pistol, the caption above it says, it's really powerful, like, with a bunch of R's. Because when he... early in the game, when you encounter Barry and he gives you acid shells for Jill in the original Resident Evil, he says, like, I found a weapon. It's really powerful, especially on living things. And, like, just the callbacks to that just really cracked me up. I know, I love
what
that.
What else would you be shooting?
Well, that's why I love that line. It's
Dead
stupid.
Shit.
Well, it's stupid for two reasons. Number one, no kidding, grenade ammo is useful on living things. But number two, this is Resident Evil, and this is the very beginning of the game. You're not going to encounter hunters for, like, an hour. So everything you're fighting is freaking undead. So, like, what are you even doing? So I just thought that was really entertaining. So anyway, yeah, Resident Evil HD Remaster. Spoiler
also,
alert, I
that game
recommend
is
it.
still freaking beautiful. It's like...
Yeah, even the GameCube release is gorgeous. But the remaster is like, oh my god. Like, being able to see everything just in HD is just so good.
Awesome. Anything else?
No, that's really it, because I've been Let's Playing that, so I've been just doing that for a few hours a night for several nights in a row, and I've just been compiling footage and trying to find extra clips of different characters doing extra things. So, like, that coupled with the fact that I've been playing, Resident Evil 1 again lately, I'm on something of a Resident Evil 1 kick.
Nice. All right, well, Pyro, what have you been up to?
So I beat the Rhythm Heaven Megamix game the other day, and the last remix was a pain in the butt, but I managed to get through it. It was interesting, like, I failed it, but they said, like, so it says something along the lines of, you sucked at this stage.
Man.
And it said, too bad, or failed, or whatever. But then it had a little speech bubble come up and said, there are some good parts, and it put me just above passing.
Nice.
Saved by the bell.
That's kind of funny.
And I'm like, cool, good, I'm done with this game. Because, like, the thing about Rhythm Heaven I find is, and I said this on the last podcast, I really enjoy the mini games, but I hate having to unlock everything. And I don't want to have to play all the games. I wish, but on the other hand, then why am I spending $40 on the game if I'm not going to play everything? So I figured I'll beat all the stages. And now if I want to, I can go back to it and play those games, because there are several really fun stages that I could play. Other than that, I got back into Tokyo Mirage Sessions. I'm about,
nice.
I think, 2/3 of the way done now. I have to beat it in, like, a week, because another Megaten game comes out, so I'm on a bit of a time limit here. And,
Are you getting that super special edition of 5?
Yeah, I actually pre-ordered it yesterday.
Awesome.
Oh, you were still able to pre-order it?
It comes out in February.
Oh, okay.
The American version. Yeah, so...
But believe it or not, I actually pre-ordered that as well, just because...
Oh, what's the new game then?
The new game is, like, kind of a somewhat sequel to Megaten 4.
Oh, yeah,
Apocalypse.
That's right.
Yeah.
I don't think
So I've been
I knew about
replaying
this.
Apocalypse also. I mean, I've been replaying Megaten 4 also, just to remind myself how the story kind of
Wasn't Megaten 4, like the hardest one?
Not
No,
necessarily, but
3
there was
is,
one for 3DS.
but...
Oh,
Yeah,
Nocturne?
I think it was. Nocturne
Yeah.
was. 4 was the one for 3DS.
Yeah.
That was not Strange Journey. You might be thinking of Strange Journey, because that was a hard one.
Okay.
Well, he's also probably referring to my difficulties in playing that series.
It's possible.
SMT4 was very difficult for me. It was the first mainline SMT game I really tried to play, and it kicked my ass.
You gotta have a certain way of thinking to go through those games.
Yeah, I know that there's like buffs are way more important than in most other games.
Mm-hmm.
And
Yeah,
also
that's-
resistances.
Yeah, usually when I play
Yes.
Final Fantasy or whatever, I just power my way through it, but I don't think that would fly in an SMT game.
No, it doesn't play like a regular RPG in that regard. You can't just press A.
Like,
Yeah.
equipment matters the least in these games.
Really?
The most important thing is you knowing your enemy's weaknesses. So it's going to come down to, a lot of times, you're going to go into a new area and find new demons to fight, and they're going to kick your ass the first time because you have no idea what they're weak to. Either
Okay.
they'll crush you, or you'll barely survive, but then you'll know what their weaknesses are, and you'll be able to do better the next time. Because the way that this system basically goes, and the way the past few mainline SMT games have gone, is think of, like, let's just call them like battle units. So you get one battle unit per person that's in your party. You can have from 1 to 4 people in your party. And every action uses a battle unit. But if you hit an enemy's weakness, you basically only use half of a battle unit.
Okay. So it's kind of like
give you
AP
extra
sort of?
attacks. Yeah, it will give you extra attacks. But on the other hand, if you use something against someone who's strong against it or who nulls it, you lose extra turns. So,
well, you know what, though? In a way, at least it's kind of advantageous, because with some games, you might just do very little damage, and you won't know if that's because you hit them with something they're strong against, or if you're just under-leveled. But if you lose a bunch of turns, you could at least immediately be like, oh, he's strong against that, so I know that about that monster.
Yeah, but at the same time, if you let them attack, they're probably going to do massive damage to you.
No,
so,
it sucks for you, but I mean, like, the game clearly tells you what's going on instead of, like, here's a number, make of it what you will.
Mm-hmm. But yeah, so that's the most important. Then comes, like Vice said, is the buffs and debuffs, and then is equipment. And even then, your defense equipment is a lot more important than your offense equipment.
Yeah, I just kind of made the connection that I had a much easier time playing the Persona games, and I would assume that, that's commonplace. That's kind of why they were invented. But I was playing SMT3, and I kind of get where they got their system from in now how you're kind of explaining how 4 works, in that when you attack something that's weak to something, it gets staggered and you get an extra hit. So I understand that a little bit better now. It's just like I had to get used to it's okay to like go into a part of a dungeon and totally get your clock cleaned.
Yep. And then you go back in knowing more the next time.
Yeah, so like I need to remember to save a lot more often than I did. That's another thing.
That's a big thing. And always save before bosses, because you're probably going to die the first time when you're learning what the battle is going to be like. And then the next time you go in and you cream them, you're like, now I know exactly what I need to do.
Not to mention that I've heard in some, at least some Persona games, I heard some bosses can be like a half hour, 40 minutes if you do know what you're doing.
It depends. It depends on how leveled you are. But, I mean, maybe there will be a boss or two, but not very many are like that.
Okay.
And I'll probably end up going back to it, just like I always do. But I actually got really frustrated with this type of gameplay, believe it or not, back in the day when I got the first version of Etrian Odyssey 2. Etrian Odyssey 1, you can actually play that mostly like a traditional RPG and just like kind of plow your way through it. If you level correctly, like physical damage is still a good way to go. But in 2, there are enemies that are weak to only vulnerable to one type of attack. Like piercing or something like that.
So if you don't have that, you're screwed.
If you don't have any characters that don't have any piercing, you're just going to get destroyed. You won't be able to do it. You won't be able to do any damage to the character, and he'll just wreck you. And it'll be a common character on the map, and I didn't even understand that when I was playing. So like I got really frustrated and was like, I like the first one way better.
I've never been a huge fan of those games. I thought that when I bought the Persona one, I'd like it more, but I got maybe 2/3 of the way through, and then it just got to a point where I'm like, I don't have the time to level for this game. I don't have the time to like spend preparing for every single battle.
The first Etrian Odyssey, I spent a lot of time on. I'm not gonna lie. And I was playing it on my lunch breaks at work at the time. So that's kind of like why I was able to beat it. And then when I got to 2, like I didn't have that anymore. And it just like took forever to do anything in that game.
Yep.
And I really love it because I really love the mechanic of making your map on the bottom of the screen.
Yeah, I think that's really cool how they do that. And I like the skill point based system on your characters, but it's just it takes way too much time and dedication to play those games.
You know, regarding making your map as you play and skill points for characters, that kind of reminds me of the Grimrock games. With
for sure.
With Grimrock, the map opens up automatically, but if you can set it so it doesn't, if you want to go like really old school and you can fill in the map yourself.
Yeah, what was neat is Etrian Odyssey basically has its own graph paper at the bottom of the...
Yeah, that's pretty cool.
All the tools that you would need to tell yourself exactly what's going on with those tiles.
Nice.
And so I love doing that, but then it's kind of like Picross in a way. Like I really like playing Picross on the DS and with a touchscreen. But once you give me a piece of paper to play and an actual Picross to play, it's such a pain in the ass because because of like if you make a mistake, you have to erase everything you filled in.
Well, yeah, it's like Sudoku. Like you could erase, but it's like it's done. It's too late.
Sure, but not if you're good at it.
No, I know, but everyone's. No, I actually have been pretty good at like the newspaper Sudokus, but if you ever do make a mistake, it's just the worst.
Yeah.
Lotus, we've just been giving you the same one every single day.
Oh, no wonder I kept getting faster and faster.
But I might go back to the Etrian Odyssey games because it has a Yuzo Koshiro soundtrack. First of all,
oh wow,
I love the art, and
for some reason it's just a Streets of Rage style soundtrack.
Actually, he uses a PC-98 to program the music for those games. Like he uses an old system and an old sound chip to make it sound like it's old. So like there are also like in the later games you can choose like a newer sounding soundtrack as well, like a remixed one, but I like it sounding like the old Ys games that he used to make.
Yeah, that's pretty cool.
So it's really cool, and it also the first Etrian Odyssey has one of the best twists in video game history. I'm not gonna
Turns out you were the dungeon the whole time.
There are so many sequels now that I don't mind kind of like saying it. If you want to skip over the next couple seconds or next minute or so, you can, but I just want to talk about it. It's just so cool. So it turns out that you were being sent into the dungeon because the leader of the town absolutely knew that nobody could ever get through it, and it was generating all the economy of the entire town surrounding the dungeon.
That is clever, because in RPGs, everything, like the shops, really are 100% dedicated to the RPG character who goes into dungeons and fights monsters.
So he was the king or the mayor or whatever was really just sending in people in there to die just so he could like
so people could hit their corpses up for loot.
Well, no, just
so the town can prosper.
So the town could prosper. They would sell like all of these, all of this equipment to the adventurers.
Oh, it's just for the shop. So there's no one. Yeah. There's no one like Patches from Demon Souls where he's just like, I'll send you in to die, then I'll grab your equipment and sell it to somebody. Like
because it's not that dark.
Okay,
it's not, but he also kind of explains that he's the guardian of that dungeon too. He was kind of like manipulating it for his own gain.
Oh, that's cool.
But it turns out that once you climb the tower, you find out that like modern day like bombed out Tokyo is
that's
on
insane.
Top. So it's really great. So the last stratum, if you want to, is totally optional. Like you've beaten the whole game at this point once you found out. But that last stratum you can just go through. It's kind of like a bonus stratum because like it's really, really difficult. It's like really like old school dungeon crawly in that like it has all these pitfalls that drop you down to the previous floor and you need to know where they go and all these teleporters and bullshit. God. It's really annoying. But like you don't the last one is like moving through an office building in a bombed out Tokyo, like modern day Tokyo. It's really awesome.
That is freaking incredible.
So, like, you have this, like, medieval society living underground, like, this whole dungeon economy set up, and that's what it was going on the whole time. And really, there isn't much story to go by in that game, because the characters are all generic, first of all, because it's, like, an old-school dungeon crawler. Until the remake came out later, they added actual characters to it. But characters that you are don't have any dialogue or anything.
Yeah,
so
they're just people that you make just to be in your party.
Exactly.
Yeah, well, I mean, it's like Final Fantasy 1.
Yeah, exactly. So like the only characters in the game are the people in the town. So you get little snippets of things as they're talking about it and giving you new missions, but that's it. So
yeah, that's super cool.
Did you play anything else, Pyro?
No, that's about it.
Cool. Any movies or anything like that?
Well, this is last week. I didn't mention it the week before, but I watched all the Final Destination movies again.
Oh, nice.
Oh man, was it Fox only?
What?
Fox only Final Destination?
Oh, Super Smash Bros.
No items?
Oh, I get it. I get it now. Okay.
Did you watch all of them?
Yeah, my friend got it for me for my birthday. He got me all 5 of the movies.
Nice.
Nice.
So we kind of had like a marathon, and there's a lot of things I didn't remember about them, and I didn't realize how bad 4 was.
That's the last one chronologically, right? Like 5 is a prequel.
Yes. 5 is a prequel.
Gotcha. Which one did you like the best?
Personally, I like 5 the most, I think, just because of how it connects to the first movie. Like, the whole movie, they're talking about, you've watched all the other ones, so you're used to the whole idea of they're trying to cheat death and all that sort of stuff. But then at the very end of the movie, when you find out that the plane crash in the first movie could have just been to kill off the 2 people who survived, it's like, wow, wait a second. Everything that I knew about this movie...
And then
really
that
changed.
set off another chain reaction, right?
Yes,
Of the people who survived the first one.
Shouldn't Death just maybe acknowledge that he freaking sucks at his job?
No, like, Death is actually playing around with everybody.
Yeah,
Oh, okay.
I think that's the general idea is, yes, Death has let these people live, but it's because he enjoys the game.
Okay.
Yeah, I mean, like, the whole movie is like a setup to have like Rube Goldberg like
crazy death
deaths
sequences
that Death sets off through like rolling the dice.
Okay.
Essentially, so like Death is actually personified in these movies, if I remember right. Like
maybe.
You see his shadow at one point.
You see his shadow. Really? Some people think that the mortician is Death because he knows a lot of information, but it could just be because he's around Death all the time. But in terms of, like, Death being in the movie, you see, I don't know if you'd say it's a shadow, but you can see kind of a vague glimpse of something. Like
a hand. I remember, like, a hand in, like, the first or second movie.
Maybe, but it's, like, it's not, you don't know. I wouldn't say it's personified. I'd say you can see the shroud of Death before someone dies.
Gotcha. I always like those movies just because I love that kind of Rube Goldberg kind of setup. Like I was a huge fan of Mousetrap when we were kids, and I even made a Rube Goldberg machine for my physics class.
Nice.
So, the whole point of the exercise in physics class was to tell you that a Rube Goldberg machine is actually a really terrible idea because there are so many points of failure.
Yeah, the more moving parts you have, the more chance you have of screwing up.
Yeah, so he was trying to teach us that, like, even if you make a really good one, it's bound to mess up.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. I mean, anyone who played Mousetrap will tell you that thing never worked right.
Yeah. So, that was cool. Any other movies or anything like that?
No, that's it. That's about it.
How about yourself, Lotus? Did you watch any movies or do anything like that?
Nope. The only thing I did, though, was I headed over to a video game con called A Video Game Con over in Parsippany, New Jersey. And I went there with Mr. Ryu 45. And, it was pretty cool. We hung around there for a few hours. Took a look at it was one of those things where the con is mainly a dealer's room, and they have a big free play area and some arcade machines. So it was pretty entertaining. I picked up a few loose instruction manuals to go with some games I have, and I got the old X-Men game for the Genesis. I was kind of happy to finally get that back, because my brother and I sold our Genesis and our games to help pay for an N64, so I've been slowly getting the games we had back. Not that we had so many, it's just like, I never am really in the mood to go, like, I'm going to go on eBay and find X-Men for the Genesis. Like, I don't want it that badly, but like I encountered it, and I'm like, oh, okay.
It's also a super common game, so like even
That's
just
the
ordering
thing.
that on its own, like it costs almost as much as it's shipping.
Yeah, that's the thing. So like if I see it on a table at a con, you know what? Sure.
Absolutely.
And like, well, I mean, I've seen it before at stores actually, but it was without the manual, so I didn't want it enough. And as a matter of fact, the one I got on Saturday also did not have a manual, but one of the vendors who had manuals had one for X-Men. I was like, hey, so that worked out.
Nice. Well, I guess then we can move on to some questions here. I think we have a little bit of extra time.
Yeah,
than
we have
usual.
a bunch. Some of these might go a little more quickly than others, but we'll see. The first one, and by the way, I think I say this every time, but I'm going to ask these in the order that I received them. The first one, from Saturn Otaku. What are your guilty pleasures, video gaming or otherwise? I'm not going to answer. I feel too guilty.
You should go into confession about that.
Star Wars Episode 1.
I would say that our group of friends generally has a lot of guilty pleasures. I mean, we love crappy stuff just for the sake of watching.
Well, not to
stuff.
mention, a few weeks ago we talked about playing Galgun. Like, that's not something you would admit to, like people in public. But we
generally like things in bad taste.
That's the thing. Like, I'm okay with those like stupid cheesecake games like Galgun or like Senran Kage or whatever. Like, they're fun enough.
Yeah, I mean, like, we also love, like, our exploitation films from the 70s, too. Like, we really love, Dolemite and
oh, man.
that whole series of movies.
That is a good series.
Yeah.
the Human Tornado.
The Human Tornado is probably our, like, collectively favorite movie.
That is, I will say this. As far as I am aware, I think that might be... there's a particular scene in the Human Tornado that might be the hardest I have ever laughed in my life.
Yeah, I remember.
And I am 30.
My face, I think, turned red, and I couldn't breathe.
Yeah, no,
our friend, one of our other friends, also couldn't breathe. He did the silent laughing thing. With me, I could breathe, but my stomach, like my abdomen, really hurt. Like I caused myself like actual pain from laughing.
That was just a fantastic moment. We were all dying. Like we were all laughing harder than we probably had ever laughed before.
And what I thought
was
entertaining was that we had it on DVD, and you know how like every DVD ever has chapter select, and one of the chapter moments is like that scene. Like they knew what they were doing.
Oh yeah, it's like you'll know what we're talking about if you ever watch it. I'm not gonna ruin it at all. You have to watch it.
That's one of those things where like that's one of those things where like I might want to like record it off the DVD on the PC and put it on YouTube for context. Like I was really in pain from laughing that hard. Like, oh my god! Like people were saying during Pyro's and my Danganronpa Let's Play, the hardest they had heard me laugh was when Pyro, you made that really funny joke when Monokuma was talking about like, oh, I like to watch my friends play video games. I don't really play myself. Like, I'm Lotus Prince. Like that freaking like that freaking slayed me. But like that Dolemite scene. Oh my god!
We all were just on the floor,
like actually on the floor. Like,
and the best part is I showed it to another group of friends, and they didn't laugh, and I was dying again. And I'm just like, oh.
Yeah. Well, speaking of which, even with us, there was someone there who was just sitting through it like, and that kind of made it funnier, like because it's like you don't get nothing, like this isn't even slightly funny to you, really. Like I love it. It's like what's her name? I always confuse these two women who are named Margaret, but like the straight woman in the Marx Brothers, Margaret Dumont, was that her name?
I don't know.
But like there's one person on the Marx Brothers movies who is very, very straight all the time, and she actually does not find the Marx Brothers to be funny. And like a lot of their jokes are kind of like at her expense when she's in the scene, and you can actually see her like restrain herself. She's just like oh god, like it's pretty funny. And like there was apparently a time where she like threatens to like dissociate with them, and they're like, no, you make our movies great by like not liking us. And it just kind of had that effect when that person we were with was just getting zero entertainment out of that scene in Dolemite, like, or out of the Human Tornado. It was wonderful.
Jeez, and that was like the first time I think you hung out with us as a group too, Pyro.
It was.
That's a good way to start.
Yeah, we got the ball rolling pretty good.
And there was one other scene, and it actually made it funnier because of what I was doing at the time. There was a scene where Dolemite was making this dramatic escape jump, one of those you know those like slow-mo jumps where you jump away from an explosion.
Oh yeah, I know.
There was no explosion or anything, but he jumped off this large ledge.
It was like a hill.
Yeah, but I mean, it was pretty large for you to jump when you were a grown man. And like he makes this big jump, and like apparently it looked goofy. I was in the bathroom at the time, so all of you were like, "Oh my God, Lotus, come back! You got to see this again." And I'm like, "What did I miss?" And you were getting to rewind, or you were getting ready to rewind, and all of a sudden, Rudy Ray Moore, the actor who plays Dolemite, just does a voiceover of the movie, and this is the first time he's done this. And he goes, "What's that? You think that jump wasn't real, motherfucker?" And the movie rewinds itself and replays, and I was freaking dying.
It's like the movie was reading our minds.
Yeah, it was great. It was the greatest.
Rudy Ray Moore, what a man.
He's the best. Dolemite's the name, and fucking up motherfuckers is my game. It's like,
yeah,
yes.
I mean, I have a comedy album from him that's called This Ain't No White Christmas.
Yeah.
Oh my God.
Yeah, our friends got it for you on freaking vinyl. It's like he just found it. It's like, yep, that's what I'm getting.
and at the beginning of the album, he goes, "I'm Rudy Ray Moore, and I am Dolemite."
He is Dolemite. Like
so
you know how that effect. Like, you don't even remember what their characters' names are. It's just Nicolas Cage in the movie. It's just Jason Statham in the movie. It's just Bill Murray. It's like that. Rudy Ray Moore is Dolemite.
That's his alter ego. He's Superman.
He's badass.
But I mean, we love crap in general. Like anything that's awkward. We were watching that calisthenics competition from the 80s.
Yeah, this is easy to look up on YouTube. It's like the Sierra Mist aerobic championship or something, where they have this really surprisingly catchy background music with everybody coming in and doing their aerobic poses and stuff like that. And it goes on for way the hell too long, which kind of makes it better. It's like, this person from South Dakota, this person from California, this person from here, this person, and it just doesn't stop.
And they are insanely coordinated.
They are. And everyone's doing like a pose and they come out and like winking at the camera and stuff. It's kind of fantastic. And everyone has like 70s and 80s hair.
Like, we just like
Key and Peele did a parody sketch of it because it went viral on YouTube, and so Key and Peele made that sketch, and it's like, you might actually understand what they're referencing.
I also think that we find like awkward training videos and things like that really funny.
Oh yeah, actually, as a matter of fact, Spoonie had uploaded a few of those on his site years ago. There was a really good Game Crazy one, which is like the cringiest thing ever.
Yeah, we love, and that all stems from like MST3K.
Enjoying the bad movies. And by the way, I said this earlier kind of as a joke, but like, I genuinely do enjoy watching Star Wars Episode 1, even though it's like it's not a good movie.
It has good things about it.
Yeah, it has a lot of things about it. I like watching the action scenes and everything. I will say my least favorite is Attack of the Clones, but that
one's just boring.
Yeah, like that's episode 1 is dumb, but I watched it a bunch of times as a kid.
And we also like crappy games for the hell of it too. I mean,
Mr. U45 and I let's played Overblood. You don't.
Overblood is the crappiest game.
You don't go to that game. Well, you know what the funny thing is. I had a German viewer tell me that the dubbing in German is actually pretty good. like most of
That's a shame.
like a lot of our enjoyment from the game came from like the really derpy voice acting, and apparently it's pretty quality in German. What's funny is the guy who made Overblood became the founder of Level 5.
Are you serious?
Yeah, so like he has the Dark
Some
Cloud
chops.
games and what was Level 5 that's popular now? I think
Ni
no Kuni.
Yeah, he wasn't as big of a member of the project of Ni no Kuni. He was kind of incidentally involved, but it's just crazy to see that like it all came from freaking Overblood. Because
Was
like,
that Yokai Watch? Do they make Yokai Watch now?
oh,
They might,
I don't remember.
actually.
Oh, by the way, spoiler, this actually is skipping ahead. But we did get a question from School Filmer asking if we had heard of, played, or watched Yokai Watch. So clearly the answer is yes. I have not. I've not played it.
It's Pokemon with ghosts and demons.
Yeah,
and stuff.
I have not heard of. I've not played it. I've not watched it, but obviously we've heard of it.
I know it's popular with children because I still do see commercials for it on Cartoon Network and things like that.
Apparently, kids like it more than Pokemon now too.
Jeez.
I mean, I'm kind of glad that there's another series
definitely.
that kind of like is competing with Pokemon. Not that I hate Pokemon, but like,
Well, no, competition is good because it encourages you to evolve.
Good. Exactly.
Ah.
Mega Evolve.
I don't think he got the joke that he made.
Rare Candy.
Yeah, once again,
Lotus.
I wasn't going in that direction.
But yeah, I mean, skipping ahead to that question, I don't think either of any of us really like that type of game, unfortunately.
Yeah, I played Pokemon Yellow, and that's my Pokemon experience, unless you count like Snap and Stadium.
I played Pokemon Blue, and I got all the Pokemon, and then I really haven't played. I played like a little bit of Heart Gold, I think, or one of those, and then I played X, and I beat the game. And then I'm like, you know what? I'm going to try to catch all the No, I'm not. Never mind. There's way too many here. I didn't even catch all the Pokemon that were just from that game because...
I don't even think that's the goal anymore. The goal...
I know.
I just can't be bothered.
But it's like... But on the other hand, I can't say that I don't like that type of game because I do like the Megaten games, and that kind of is basically the same thing in a way.
Yeah.
Yeah.
With a better story and better gameplay. Yeah.
Yeah.
Also, it came first, didn't it?
Yes.
Yeah, and in fact, the first Megami Tensei game was on the NES.
Yeah, there we go. Oh, that's right, because it was Shin Megami Tensei that was on the Super Nintendo, or the Super Famicom.
Correct. Atlas programmed the first two games, but they were published by Namco. Mm-hmm. And then they remade Megami Tensei 1 and 2 for the Super Nintendo after that.
Oh, that's cool.
They were pretty interesting games, especially the second Megami Tensei, because it had unique sound hardware in it, kind of like Gimmick does, but it was its own, and it sounds like almost like a Genesis.
By the way, I just love how many times in the podcast across the weeks you have actually had an excuse to bring up freaking Gimmick. Like, how often does that game come up ever? And you're doing it like consistently.
There are certain podcasts where like a certain game gets mentioned all the time. Like SelectButton.net has a podcast where invariably somebody mentions Demon Souls.
Nice.
Or no, it's God Hand. God Hand gets brought up every single episode. Amazing. And like no matter who's on it, like somebody makes sure that they have a segue leading into God Hand.
Nice.
Which is it's been going on for years.
I'm okay with that.
But yeah, I guess maybe that's my one-trick pony. But it's a neat thing that the Megami Tensei has. Like, if you listen to the music just from the Famicom version of Megami Tensei 2, it sounds unreal. Like, you would never believe that an NES sounds like that.
Nice.
It's really cool.
All right. Well, I mean, I think that probably covers it for Guilty Pleasures and for Yokai Watch, because we really can't talk much about Yokai Watch because we.
I also like Taco Bell.
What?
Oh yeah, Guilty Pleasure.
Oh, geez. Okay. All right. So the next question is from Gaming Dreamer. This one I'm gonna leave to you guys. Can I get shmup recommendations for the PS4? The one and only shmup I'm aware of for that system is Resogun, and it's pretty cool. So I'm done.
I actually made a
list. I don't know
list.
many for PS4.
Yeah, I actually prepared a list for this specific question because I saw it a couple weeks ago. So the PS4 is still relatively new in terms of getting that kind of stuff on it. However, there are some good ones. The PS3 is a better choice for that kind of thing.
Yeah, they also give you access to PS1 games like Einhander or something.
And the 360 also has some really good region-free games that only came out in Japan. But the best thing right now is actually Steam. Steam has like a really great selection of shmups on it.
Yeah, it's getting better.
No, there's some really, really good ones on there. And so, like, even if you're not like the biggest PC gamer in the world, it's worth noting that there are a lot of really cool games coming in from the indie space, and also some ports of some really awesome games, like the original Musehime-sama and Death Smiles are on PC now. So
yeah, I couldn't believe seeing Death Smiles, because I just always associated that with the 360 in my mind, because that's all I ever knew that it was on, and all of a sudden it's like anyone can play it now. Like, whoa.
Absolutely. But the PS4, the major shmups on the system, like the packaged ones, are the like high priced ones, I would say, like full release ones, are going to be Darius Burst Chronicle Saviors, which is an amazing game. It's the newest Darius game. Has a ton of extra content, has tons of extra things to do in it, really cool multiplayer stuff. It even has some nods to other shmup games in history, like even from stuff not non-Taito games. Like there's some Space Harrier DLC. There's some, I think, Opa's in it. Like,
oh wow,
like from Sega stuff, from the Fantasy Zone games. There's just a lot of really cool things going on in that game. It is a $60 game or $50 game, but it is well worth it. It's probably one of the best shmups you'll ever play. And the production values are extremely high. Though I would recommend the Steam version if you have access to a decent computer, because that one can actually replicate the arcade setup of having two screens.
That's right, with that
side
insane resolution.
Yeah. I need to get back into shmups. I haven't played them in a while.
Yeah. That's a good one. And there's also Caladrius Blaze, which was just released recently. That's about a $30 game, if I'm not mistaken. And I talked about that last one in depth, but that is probably the best bullet hell game on the system. It's really good, and also really it's really accommodating for beginners. There's a lot of beginner and practice modes in the game, and even the normal mode is pretty fair. But the high level play is very, very challenging. So there's like easy, very easy, and all that kind of stuff, if you just want to get a handle for that type of game. So definitely check that one out. It has its cheesecakiness, like when you defeat the bad guys and do like a combo on them at the end, at the end of the levels, it like tears their clothes off. But
welcome to modern freaking Japanese gaming.
Yeah, so you can't blame me for that, but it's a good game. And one just came out this week, actually. The Toho game for the PS4 just came out.
Oh wow!
The Toho games are coming to actual consoles now.
That's crazy.
Yep.
But this one is a very different kind of Toho game.
I think I saw this like a fighting game kind of, but with Toho characters.
Huh.
It's kind of like Vortex Senko no Ronde, if anybody ever played that for the 360. It's like a bullet hell fighting game.
Yeah.
Strange.
Imagine if you were a bullet hell boss and you're fighting another bullet hell boss.
That's ridiculous.
So there's a lot of shit on screen and all that kind of stuff, and you have to dodge a lot, and there's special meters and all kinds of stuff. And it's way more fun with an actual second person. So, that's a good one. But again, that's a non-traditional shmup. For sure. But there are other ones. Like you said, Resogun is a very great game.
Yeah, that was was that a launch title?
It was a launch title.
It does look gorgeous. I mean, that was basically the PS4 saying, look at our particle effects, because we have them.
Exactly, and it's also on the Vita, I might add.
Oh, nice.
And Resogun, if anybody doesn't know, is basically like a modern version of Defender.
I guess so, yeah.
Basically, you move around in an infinitely looping space. In this one, it's represented as like a kind of like you go around in a cylinder shape.
Yeah, you can actually see the world that would normally be off screen if it were a 2D environment.
and you go around and you rescue. The goal is to rescue all of these humans being abducted by the bad guys, or little stick figures in this case.
Yeah, if you accidentally kill them, you just miss the opportunity for extra points.
Yeah, and you unlock stuff by getting perfect playthroughs of your levels. So that's a fantastic game, a different type of game than the other shmups we've mentioned.
Yeah, it's not a traditional one.
And this is actually a really cool thing about the PS4. The PS4 is getting some really accurate arcade ports to it from this company called Hamster Corporation. They are releasing these arcade archives games, and it's from a lot of different companies. But one of those companies happens to be Konami. And Konami has a whole suite of their classic shmups on it, including Gradius 1, Gradius 2, Life Force, and
Life Force.
And a lot of their obscure shmups. There's one called Ajax, and there's also... Yeah, exactly.
Like that guy in Deadpool.
And like the Greek...
Yeah, the Greek hero. Yeah, I actually read about him relatively recently.
And Menelaus. But...
Menelaus, bringing that back.
Call back to episode 1 here.
Jeez.
But yeah...
Menelaus. That's my stupid quirk that we keep bringing up. Freaking Menelaus. Great.
So yeah, there are a lot of, and these ports are really awesome. You can play either the Japanese or American version of the game, which is a really cool bonus.
There's cool.
There's a lot of different emulation features, like you could change the resolution, how it's displayed. You can even go into Tate mode, which is sideways mode, if you want to put have a vertical monitor.
Oh wow.
There's a lot of really cool stuff that those are doing, but probably the biggest news that I have to tell everybody in this regard for shmups, if you're really into these, 2 of the best shmups ever made are getting ported by M2, which are probably the best emulation studio in the entire world. They have programmed the emulation for all of the Genesis games on the 3DS.
Oh, damn.
And they also have programmed a lot of the Virtual Console games. Probably one that people would have recognized is that's probably the most recognizable one is those 3D classics on the 3DS. So they are the most accurate by far in terms of emulating games, and it's almost as good as playing the original, pretty much just as good. You can even choose they're so meticulous, you can even choose to have like the hydraulic sounds of the original arcade machines play while you're playing like those games while they're moving. Remember we were talking about Radmobile or whatever? You know how it's a hydraulic game?
Yeah.
Well, they will program the sounds of those hydraulics into the game if you want that. You could take them off. They also allow you to pick between Genesis 1 style music and Genesis 2.
That's great.
So they're masters at this. They are finally porting. They came out with a shmup series that they are going to be releasing for the PS4 that has 2 games announced for it so far. And so far they're Japan only, but you can get a hold of them by going on the Japanese PSN and setting up an account. If they don't come out here, but I think they will. One of them is Cave's Dangun Feverun, which is a game themed around space disco.
Nice.
And it's probably one of the most fun bullet hell shmups you'll ever play. It's hilarious. And you have to rescue these like guys in afros that are falling out of ships when you destroy them. It's a lot of fun.
I'm okay with this.
Yeah, and the other one that they're making that they just announced probably this week or the week before, is Battle Gorega, which is a Tau Plan game, I believe, and that game is considered one of the progenitors of the shmups, of the Danmaku shmup or bullet hell shmup. So it's really famous game that was only ported to Sega Saturn, and it's a super expensive game. It's like $300, $400. Very few people have access to it, and it's one of the best shmups ever made. And this is getting like like a $15 port, and it's going to be arcade perfect on top of that. On top of it's going to be better than the Saturn version.
I love when stuff like that happens, like with Misadventures of Tron. It's just on PSN now. Yes.
Absolutely. So, you have a lot to look forward when it comes to shmups here. Dangun Fever had never been ported on anything, so that's a real treat. So there's some good recommendations for you. You can't get much better than that. Those are all the best ones, and all the notable ones. There's others, but those are the big ones.
All right, we're getting kind of close to 90 minutes now, so I think we have.
More, maybe?
Yeah, I was gonna say we have time for one more because this is intentionally a short one. Lorian Williams asks, "What, in all caps, what one upcoming game are you most excited about and why? Just one."
I think you both know mine, so I'll let you two go first.
For me, like, I'm not really super excited, like, oh my god, it's coming. Like, I'm not really getting that feeling right now. The closest I can come is probably The Last Guardian, because I've been waiting.
It got delayed again.
I don't care. It's coming out. Like,
it got delayed, but only like by a couple months. I'm okay.
It got delayed until December, I think.
Whatever. The game's coming out. Like, so, like, I've been waiting for like a decade for this thing. So, it's cool to see Team Ico finally making a third game. I'm super hyped to see where
complete the trilogy.
If a trilogy is what it is, I guess. I mean, there definitely are connections between Ico and Shadow of the Colossus, so I'm wondering if The Last Guardian plays into that as well. So I look forward to finding out.
I'm glad that you picked that one because I was fighting between this and another game. So we have similar tastes. So this will be good because I think all three of these games are games that we're pretty much looking forward to. I've been wrestling between this and a couple other games, but by and large, I would say that I cannot wait for the new Zelda game to come out.
Okay.
Breath of the
Okay.
Wild.
Breath of the Wild.
Yeah. That's a good one.
I can't wait to see what they do, how they incorporate what they learned from Link Between Worlds. I love Zelda games. They're adventure games are my favorite genre by far. Anything with adventure elements, like action adventure, I mean, not like point and click adventure. Action adventure games are my favorite by far. So anything having to do with exploring dungeons and in an action oriented way, and like any ease game, anything like that, like I'm all about that. That's even why I like Metroidvania games, because at their heart they're
that's a good point.
They are action adventure games that they're just in that 2D style,
Yeah, I'm curious how they're going to take the Zelda formula and kind of pull stuff from kind of a Skyrim quote unquote formula and put it together.
I mean, I believe they can make it work because they were able to do, like, they made a Warriors game out of Zelda. Like, they can play with the genre a little bit.
Well, they didn't make the Warriors game.
Well, okay, fair enough. But, like, a Warriors game was made. So, like, Zelda's done a couple different things before. There's been the Link's Crossbow Adventure. Like, some series just play around with...
side scroller.
Yeah, exactly. It's like Resident Evil. There's, like, there are those gun con games where you move around the first person, the Survivor series. There's Umbrella Chronicles where you point and shoot at the screen. Silent Hill did that. They had a railgun shooter. They have a visual novel. Sometimes series play with their formats. So I have confidence that the new Zelda game will, be at least good at what it does.
Yeah, I mean, I'm really looking forward to it. I mean, every console Zelda game I absolutely love, except for maybe Zelda 2. But I have a soft spot in my heart for Zelda 2 because I like a lot of the ideas. But as a functioning game, it's not.
That's another one of those games where I like watching people play it, because when played well, you can really see progression and evolution of your abilities and things like that. It's pretty cool to see it done right.
Oh yeah, it can be a lot of fun, but the frustrating parts of it are
very
ridiculous.
frustrating.
Ridiculous. Mostly related to the limited lives in it and all that kind of stuff, and also like the maze at the end of the game is
That's insane.
Ridiculous. Nobody should be forced to do that.
It's just funny because a bunch of Link's Super Smash Brothers moves are from 2.
Yeah, I mean, the stab down is totally from...
Yeah, and the stab up, I believe.
And the stab up. Like, a lot of what he does in that game are...
Because that's the closest Link comes to, like, doing fighting moves.
Well, I think a lot of... some of them were used even in Ocarina of Time, but they were still based
That's
off
true.
of Zelda 2
Yeah.
stuff. Actually, there are a lot of... connections between Ocarina of Time and Zelda 2 that like a lot of people don't realize. Like all of the sages are named after towns.
Yeah, the
in
towns.
Zelda 2.
Yeah, Raru, Rudos area. That blew my mind when I first saw that. Oh, you know what? You know what Zelda 2 had that I thought was amazing, and you never see it again. Is just like every other Zelda game, you need keys to open locked doors. But if you have the fairy magic, if you turn into a fairy, you can fly through locked doors, implying you go through the keyhole. I always thought that was super cool.
Yeah. Having said that, there is a really good fan game out there that tries to emulate like the style of Zelda 2, but like in a modern context, and it's only like one level. But it's still a lot of fun. It's called Legend of Princess. It's made by the guy who made Naoto Love 2.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I think I played that, actually.
Yeah, he has some really gorgeous sprite work. And he's actually coming out with a Metroidvania sometime in the near future. So I can't wait for that. But if you want to play, like, what Zelda 2 should have been, play that. And also give a shout out to the first Adventure Time game for the 3DS, because that game plays a lot like Zelda 2, but better. So.
And so yeah, Pyro, the one you're looking forward to then?
I want you to guess.
Well, that SMT game.
No.
Wrong.
Persona 5.
Yeah. Persona 5.
Okay, duh, yeah.
Yeah, I've been looking forward to it since Persona, since I've heard about it, since I knew they were gonna make it. I've been looking forward to it, and I'm just in like this weird like mode now where I'm looking up information because I'm curious, but it just makes me want it even more. Plus, since it's gonna come out in like a week or two, I have to be careful now that I don't get spoiled with anything.
Yeah, coming out in Japan in a week or two.
Yeah, it comes out in Japan in a week or two, but it doesn't come out here until February. So
Don't hang out on 4chan.
Yeah, exactly.
Don't hang out on Reddit.
Yeah.
Don't hang out on most internet communities.
Yeah, we had mentioned this before. I had actually reserved the special edition of that myself because even though I've never played a Persona game, like I kind of want to get.
You know you'll like this.
That's the thing. On one hand, I kind of want to get into them, and I've always loved the aesthetic at the very least. And on the other,
It comes with a school bag.
oh, good. But on the other hand, like that. This is a game that I know, like, if I ever want to pick up the special edition later, there's no way I'm ever gonna find it again. So
Yeah.
You're not gonna find
I
it.
figure I may as well jump on it now.
Yeah,
I'm
I mean,
really looking forward to it.
I definitely want to beat 3 and 4 before I get to it, but I don't know whether that'll actually happen.
Well, you don't. There is no story that goes over, so you really could jump in at 5 if you wanted to.
I know, but you know the way we are.
Yeah,
like,
Yeah,
just
like,
want to
games
see the
tend to make
progression
at
of the
least-
design.
Yeah, and not to mention, oftentimes games make nods
Yeah,
to
they
the
do,
previous
they
iterations
do.
of the series. There might be a guy with the same name, or there might be like a character analog that you wouldn't otherwise get.
And there is in 5. I will say there is. that
okay.
in
Even
5.
3 has nods to 2, Persona 2.
Well, very little, but yes.
Yeah, there's an online game
Yeah.
that you play, and it's named Innocent Sin, which is
Oh yeah,
And the
that's right.
characters, your character name in that online game and the character you talk to are both named after Persona 2 characters.
Huh.
so yeah.
Okay, so yeah, those are the games we're looking forward to. So I guess at this point, that about covers the time we have for fan questions. We're at that hour and a half mark. So, as you like to say, I'd say we did a lot of damage this time around.
We sure did, Lotus.
We surely made a lot of progress today.
Lotus Sama.
Great.
Lotus-chan.
So kawaii desu ka?
Kawaii is scary.
You're
Yeah,
asking
I
a
know.
question?
Yeah.
This Ka is a question.
Disney.
Isn't Desne something like...
That's what girls
isn't
say.
it? Like,
Yeah, but that's like what a girl might say. Like, to be cute.
what, Desne?
Yeah, Desne.
But, like, I remember in Naruto, Orochimaru always had that thing. He would always like, Disney. It was, like,
But
Oh, well,
super
that's-
annoying.
he's supposed to be feminine.
Yeah, he's talking like a schoolgirl.
Oh, fair
Yeah.
enough. Okay.
That's why, like, when he says Koreo-chan or whatever his Koreo, what's his last name?
Orochimaru's?
I don't know who you're talking about.
Yeah,
but
whose
I know what you're
last
trying to
name?
say.
I'm thinking of Majima from Yakuza.
Oh, Kiryu. Yeah, Kazuma Kiryu. You're Kiryu-chan.
Yeah, he's talking like a Japanese schoolgirl.
Yeah, okay.
Constantly. So, but he's just being weird.
Majima is
Majima.
way out there.
Yeah.
He actually sobers up more and more as the series progresses.
Nice.
Like, he's almost straight in Yakuza 4. Like, you see him very little, and he's, like, very professional.
That's weird.
Because he is a freaking lunatic in Yakuza 1. Like, the closest he gets to crazy in Yakuza 4 is when he fights someone who is not Kiryu, and they actually go back to the batting cage area. I was very happy to see that.
That's where he lives.
It's the coolest thing, because he's one of the team leaders. So when he wants to get you over to this one area, it's amazing. He snaps his fingers and 1,000,000 of his men show up, and they just line every sidewalk. So the streets are entirely to yourselves. It's just you and him walking down the streets, so like with his men just on left and right in every direction. And he's like, "Don't worry, cops won't interfere with us. Like, they can't." Like, and you just have this like basically red carpet rolled out before you, and you just go wherever you go in the town. It's such a cool moment. Like, just don't mess with this guy.
So we've done even more damage this week.
Yes.
And, well, that brings us to a close for this week. We will be here next week. But keep the questions coming, guys, and please give us some feedback, some positive feedback.
Yeah, let us know if there's anything that we could do better or stuff like that.
Yeah, we did get some requests for chapter breaks for the podcast. But we could look into that. I don't know how to do them, so
Sure.
that would be a cool thing, just so you could skip to each subject.
Yeah, that's a good idea.
But
with YouTube, I think the closest I can do is just in the video's description, just type in the timestamps.
Oh yeah, you could have footnotes on those timestamps.
Yeah.
So, but I could work on doing the SoundCloud version of that. All right, guys. Have a great week, and we'll see you next time.
Until next time, everyone.
Goodbye.